Hello, we are the SpaceX fans and welcome to the SpaceX Show, the place where you can stay up to date with everything SpaceX. This video we have a lot of standard SpaceX updates with launch delays yet again, as well as a variety of other info. Then we have the usual infrastructure, Starship, Raptor and super heavy information with a load of prototypes today. We've got a lot to cover, so let's head straight in and get up to date. First off, once again we were expecting Starlink 12 and GPS 3 to lift off on Thursday and Friday, which ended up not happening. For the Starlink mission, SpaceX tweeted the reason for the scrub as being due to an out-of-family ground system sensor reading. The company also tweeted on Friday that they were aborting the GPS 3 SV04 launch as well. Musk responded to say, "We will need to make a lot of improvements to have a chance of completing 48 launches next year." When asked about the reason for this scrub, Musk said unexpected pressure rise in the turbo machinery gas generator. So, looking at the dates on the SpaceXFans website, you can see that Starlink 12 should lift off tomorrow at 11:51 AM UTC or 7:51 AM EDT. Also, you can see that we now don't know when the next attempt for GPS 3 will be. Something Musk was asked on Twitter was about what their biggest bottleneck for Falcon launches is. When asked if it was mechanical issues or susceptibility to weather or range constraints, Elon Musk responded to say all of that and more. "We are doing a broad review of launch site, propulsion, structures, avionics, range and regulatory constraints this weekend. I will also be at the Cape next week to review hardware in person." There's a new article which says that the SpaceX share price has apparently soared. It says that shares were sold for $370 each, which implies a market capitalization for the company of nearly $58 billion. There's another article which says that Soichi Noguchi, a Crew 1 mission astronaut, is in early talks about potentially joining the Dear Moon mission. For those who don't know, Dear Moon will be a privately funded mission carrying a handful of carefully selected crew which will see a Starship fly around the moon. A kid tweeted a letter to Elon Musk where he said he tried to view Starlink satellites to no avail. Musk responded with, "Great letter, it will be increasingly difficult to see Starlink satellites as we are actively working with the astronomer community to ensure that even the most sensitive telescopes are fine and scientific progress is not impeded." Somebody tweeted a picture of a speed test with Starlink internet providing sub 20 millisecond latency. Elon Musk responded to say average latency will improve as more satellites launched and more ground stations are deployed. As we are able to put more ground stations on roofs and service centres, legacy internet latency will be zero. Musk was asked about when Brownsville, which is where Boca Chica is, could start using Starlink internet due to their bad connections. He responded with, "Brownsville is quite far south, so probably 3 months or so for good connectivity needs several more Starlink launches. I'm using it at the little house I rent in the area, definitely not good there yet." Finally, for the standard updates, someone tweeted asking about the internet link between the Earth Starlink constellation and a future Mars constellation. Musk said high frequency lasers are the way to go for sure. So with that covered, let's now see what's been going on in Boca Chica, starting with these parts for a new crane seen sitting around. These are more parts for that new crane we saw last episode. Clearly, I was wrong in the last video about all the parts being put together for this crane. You can see that they are continuing to construct what will probably be a behemoth of a crane. Over by the tank farm, yet another weather station to add to the many was seen being put up. There's a new interesting addition that's been spotted at the top of the mid-bay with a new camera setup being installed. At the old gas well lot, where we still don't know what they are planning to do, a drilling machine was seen being put to work. Not too far away at the production site, the new high bay is very nearly done as Super Heavy starts growing and will soon need a home. Just on the edge of the construction yard, SpaceX recently planted some trees and have been putting up a new fence which is progressing. Austin Bernard posted some great shots of a recent trip to the SpaceX facility. Musk responded with, "World aesthetics will improve greatly in upcoming Starships." Also on the worlds, Musk gave another response to somebody who tweeted a render of Starship and Super Heavy on the new orbital launch mount. He said, "Great render, the circumferential worlds and skin panels will be much smoother in future builds." Everyday Astronaut, as he always does, tweeted a great question about steel ring difference between Starship and Super Heavy. Also mentioning Super Heavy would probably have thicker steel for higher loads, Musk responded. He said, the ship rings are thicker than they need to be for now, so same thickness works for booster and ship for hoop stress. Booster lower tank will have longitudinal stiffeners to prevent buckling. Previously, Musk mentioned that there would be a Starship presentation in October, and with it now being October, he was asked when. Elon Musk said, oh yeah, Starship update coming in about 3 weeks. The design has coalesced. What is presented will actually be what flies to orbit as version 1.0 with almost no changes. I can't wait for what he has to say and show to everyone in just a few weeks. In the nose cone fabrication tent, a new nose was spotted under construction, which is expected with the epic pace of the tank builds. Finally, before we look at Starship and Super Heavy progress, the Raptor engine SN29 was seen prepared to be moved out of the production area. This engine previously assisted SN6 with its 150 meter hop test. Moving on now, we have SN5, which recently sought shelter in the high bay. It has now been rolled out in front of the mid bay. Also moved was SN6, and it was also seeking shelter inside the high bay. Not long after being moved out, it was also moved to behind the fabrication tents near where bulkheads are usually sleeved. Taking a look now at SN8, which should be undergoing proof testing soon, the load spreader was once again hooked up to the top. After having been sat on the transport mount for a few days, it was then lifted to be placed on the Pad A mount. Then slowly, engineers assisted SN8 as it was lowered onto the test stand. As it edges closer and closer to testing, which is happening very soon, it was continuing to be worked on in preparation for the first cryo test. As the tank is readied for a variety of upcoming tests, from the cryo proof to a 15-kilometer flight, the wings were unfolded. Musk said that it would get a nose cone very soon, so I assume that it will potentially happen at the launch pad, but I wouldn't expect it before testing. Once again, I'll show you the road and beach closures, which haven't changed since the last video. So you can see that Starship testing is expected tonight from 9 PM through to Monday morning as the primary closure. Then, if they need to abort or delay for whatever reason, they also have backup windows on Monday and Tuesday evening. Now though, we will see the next candidate for testing, which is SN9, currently being stacked. You can see that the final piece of the LOX tank was seen moved outside and hooked up to a crane outside the mid bay. Then they lifted this section and moved it inside the mid bay, and the rest of the tank will soon be stacked and welded. We can expect SN9 to probably be ready in just a matter of weeks now. Here's a view of the now fully stacked SN9 tank, so engineers will work to weld this tank together before doing final preparations. For SN9, we also have an updated build diagram from Brendan Lewis. There's also SN10 currently under construction in Boca Chica. This leg skirt for the aft section was spotted after being moved outside. Also spotted being moved outside was the other part for this SN10 aft section, which will be mated with the leg skirt. Then these two were finally joined with one another, so I doubt it will be long before the SN10 tank actually starts stacking. As always, we have an updated build diagram from Brendan Lewis. Looks like now there is just one 4-ring stack remaining to complete the sections for this tank. Before we look at the progression of Super Heavy, we also have one of the newest Starships, SN11. Spotted outside recently was this SN11 header tank for storing some methane propellant separate from the main tank. There will also be one in the tip of the nose for storing liquid oxygen. With this speed, there was no doubt already more Starship pieces under construction for future vehicles. Here we have the very first stack for SN12 spotted, and this is the leg skirt that attaches to the thrust dome stack. And finally we get to the machine that will be needed to get Starship to space, the first Super Heavy booster being built. First up, the upper bulkhead was seen sitting behind the tents after recently being moved out. The dome was then placed onto the sleeving mount as it waited for the ring stack. Then the ring stack was also seen after it was moved outside. It wasn't long before they lifted the barrel section and sleeved it with the bulkhead to be welded together. Also spotted sitting outside with the many sections we've been seeing was this ring stack that's for Super Heavy. The section has a label on it saying Lock Stack 1 Booster. Amongst that collection of ring stacks we've been seeing, this stack in the middle was also spotted with a label which says Booster Fuel Stack. With that, we also have the latest build diagram from Brendan again of the super heavy construction. More and more sections keep popping out as SpaceX looks to get this booster built very quickly. Keep in mind the ring positions in this diagram are just speculative, but I'm incredibly excited to see this built. It goes without saying, but these updates wouldn't be possible without the amazing work from Mary known as Boca Chica gal. I'd like to say a huge thanks to her as well as the rest of the NASA spaceflight team also doing amazing work. You are all awesome. That's it for this episode of the SpaceX Show. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment down below. If you want to stay updated with SpaceX info, make sure to subscribe and press the bell icon to get notified when I upload. Thanks for watching and have a great day.